Hey there, this is Mark, and I'm here in Redwood City, and I'm actually playing a bit of catch up. I've had this happen before where I made the video on the day but didn't get to post it till the following day. This is a first where I didn't get to make the video on the day that it's written in this book, and I'm doing it the day after. And I struggled to figure out how I was going to organize this, if I should just skip it or, and do the day's reading for the day, or do I go back? And decided to go ahead and go back because I want to keep the continuity of at least touching on every day and every reading and maintaining the continuity of the readings and of this practice. So this is my reading from the Golden Present Daily Inspirational Readings by Sri Swami Satchidananda down here in Redwood City. This is the reading for July 12th. And the topic is Train Your Eyes to See the Bright Side of Everything. Again, I don't look ahead, and so something in me just said to follow this, so maybe this is going to help me even with today, because I definitely was a bit down on myself for not being able to get to this, but I knew that it was a practice. There's not anything more that I need to pressure myself with, or there's nobody that's saying, we're going to fire you if you don't get these done every day. It's just a practice. All right, here's what it says. As you think, so you become. Think well, you will be well. Think ill, you will be ill. It's all your thought. Sometimes you might not be thinking ill of yourself, but you are thinking ill of others. That is still thinking ill. Whether it is about you or somebody else, that is what you are thinking. When you think of that, you will become that. That is why we say, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. If you see evil, hear evil, speak evil, you will become evil. It's not to save others that you are asked not to think ill, not to speak ill. You will not be hurting them, but you will be hurting yourself. In our lives, we should always think well. Train your eyes to see the bright side of everything. Well, I have to say it's easy for me to think of this in my immediate situation here with these videos. I mean, there was some part of me that got a little down on myself, but I can easily shift out of that, and taking action here. But when I think of this in other situations, in people that we may want to speak ill about and have ill thoughts about, and we think of people in our news and in our government and in the world, and even maybe people within our own family, it can get easy to want to criticize and to speak evil because we feel like we're hearing evil. And maybe that is happening, but do we process that and let it just come back out twofold? Do we find that it justifies us or the situation when we speak ill about the things that we're hearing? It makes me need to question, well, what do we do with it when you do see something like that in the world, where you see or hear ignorance? So what Swami Satchidananda is suggesting here is to not do it, but to train your eyes to see the bright side of everything. I like that as the topic. Train ourselves not to default into the gossiping and the complaining and criticizing about how we think they should be doing it. Because who knows what it's like to be in those shoes. I think about that. I was even thinking about, this one person in particular who has a lot of power, and to have gone through the world and life in a certain way, to have had certain experiences coming at him, traveling around the globe and building certain kinds of relationships, feeling this sense of power, and not just in the personal aspect of it, but in a global sense, what that could do to one's mind. And who knows how many other people's minds would become that you know, have that kind of perspective on things. You know, anything you get absorbed into thinking and being a certain way in the world, and it definitely alters the way that you think. You know, if you are raised in a family who's doing yoga every day, and you recognize it as a way of health and life, you're surrounded by beauty, by art. If you have people who share unconditional love with you, who help you recognize the balance of beauty and ugly in the world, that one is not better than the other, but they're there as your teachers. Imagine what that kind of life would be, you know, versus being raised where power and money, fame, that those are your guiding forces, that you see the pain of others around you, and that the answer to that is to try to gain power and authority over others. So it's certainly not a way to excuse anyone. It's certainly not what I think Swami Satchidananda is even saying here. But it's to train our eyes not to become poisoned by the things around us that we could be inhaling. But to really become these filters that are able to filter some of these things and to turn them into clean air that we can breathe, clean water that we can drink, pure food, whole food. It just seems that it's more common that, that we make poison, we ingest poison, and when we share poison. And I think it can happen in subtle ways, in small ways that we might not even be aware. You know, I'm thinking right now, I've shared this before about this Swami who became aware of how she expressed some of her unconscious energy, which might even been some of her unconscious or conscious anger, by, you know, slamming doors and creating that sound, that noise pollution that might have helped her feel better when she slams a door. So she made this commitment to not slam doors for a month, to be very mindful about how she closed them. And that even ended up, I think, was like closing drawers and car doors and house doors and room doors, to really think differently about that relationship. And that was a practice to train herself to think differently about how she related to these objects, but also how she expressed her energy consciously or unconsciously. You start to think differently. And it just seems that's the way, the mind needs something like that to begin to train it to think differently. Otherwise, unconscious things start to happen. And maybe that's what we get to see in people who have the power, that are abusing it or misusing it, what it can lead to for any one of us. I know that when I see something like that, it drops me into knowing how important having a spiritual practice is, because I know any one of us could be susceptible to doing things that we may not realize causes harm to others. Well, I'm grateful that I chose to do this reading and just following along. So I think in a minute I'm just going to move over and do the reading that's actually for today. All right, thanks for staying part of this and witnessing this process. And I hope you have a good day and can find the bright side in something where you're seeing the dark side. Just at least work towards that. All right. Thank you.